That's the question we're talking about today because a lot of people have some interesting theories that have been in development for a while. For one, it's a brand new product category Apple's never dabbled around with, making little tile trackers that you could attach to whatever you want. But I must say, after the newsroom post announcing the Items tab and incorporation of third parties into the Find My network, and even that this spring, third party devices will be able to take advantage of the U1 chip built into iPhones. Is it possible that AirTags was simply an internal code name, not for an actual product, but for future products that Apple planned on opening up to their network in the future? Like the fact that the Items tab we all thought was like confirmation of AirTags in development and they were built into iOS code included things like a backpack or a keychain or a bicycle, and now they're actually promoting on the newsroom page. This is Apple themselves, okay? This is not some news agency. This is legit Apple promoting a e-bike that has the Find My network built in to the device itself. That makes it probably a lot more practical than buying a separate AirTag and just trying to duct tape it to your bike, making it something that someone would be able to just yank off as soon as they stole it. But as if you build the Find My network technology directly into the e-bike itself, that means that it'd be a lot harder to rip it off. You'd have to know exactly how to break the bike apart and probably make it downright unusable and have to break open the frame to make it untraceable. So basically what I'm trying to say is Apple promoting these different third-party devices that are now going to be compatible in the Find My network kind of makes AirTags somewhat unnecessary. A lot of people right now are saying that they've ended or they're not happening or they could be canceled. I'm undecided. At this point, if you're asking what I think, if AirTags launched at Quadruple UDC or they launched in a website refresh next week, I would be like, okay, well, that makes sense. We heard about them for a while. We heard about their design. We thought they were legit. And it seemed to be like potentially launching at this event for the past 6 events. So if they finally came out, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. We were a little bit wrong on the timeline, but here we are. But at the same time now, I'm just trying to voice my opinion for a lot of people out there that are making the claim of maybe AirTags were simply a code name for unreleased third-party devices that Apple was planning on opening up in the Find My network eventually. And this Items tab was in development for a while, but maybe AirTags wasn't exactly custom Apple hardware they were planning on launching themselves. Which honestly kind of makes a bit of sense. So, Cyber Octoling, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Appreciate that. And Kiopsis23 says, how goes it, Drew, you sexy ginger beast man? That's my new official username. I need to change everything over to that. But thank you. I'm doing well. Thank you for the bits. 10 bits from Matt Apple says, my guess is it was just for testing the Find My devices. That's another theory I've seen thrown around there, is that AirTags, what we were hearing about, was simply a device built to offer. It was simply a device built for Apple to test the Find My network and opening it up to third-party networks that everybody else can tap into. Oh shoot, Starlink, it lost its satellite. Give me a second. One sec. Let me see if it'll find the. There it goes. Okay, bounced right back. It was looking for a satellite. Too many leaks to say otherwise. But yeah, that was another theory I saw bouncing around out there, was that Apple was going to basically just test a device so that they would know how the Find My network would work, but they weren't actually planning on selling their own geo-tracking devices in the first place. Are you using a LUT? Probably not, given I don't know what that is. You can explain to me what a LUT is in a second. Let's see. Except if the AirTags offer a unique software experience, kind of like what Samsung did with their new tags that use AR, that might give AirTags a bit of purpose. I'm not here to say that AirTags serve no purpose if Apple is promoting their competitors, but it definitely seems weird. I don't know how often Apple would promote something that's going to go directly against the product that they themselves are going to release soon, like within the next few weeks. That sounds bizarre. I mean, that would be like, imagine if Apple was promoting Fitbit wearables like 6 weeks before the Apple Watch launched. That's essentially the equivalent we're getting here. That's the equivalent of them being like, 6 weeks before unveiling the Apple Watch, they were just like, hey, you guys should try out this new Fitbit. It works really well with the iPhone, and we love the Fitbit, and I think you're going to love it too, and it's great for health tracking and notification management. Like, it'd be very weird for them to just brag about that right before AirTags launch, because some people were saying we could see AirTags as soon as this month. Still no April event announced, which points hope to there being a April 20th event. Let's see what happens. But yeah, it's a weird development, because the more I'm thinking about AirTags potentially being just a code word and not something Apple actually planned on releasing, it starts to make more sense. Though I do agree, I would rather buy a geo-tracking device directly from Apple that has a very easy to set up process and could utilize a charging standard that I already have. Like, if I just had to drop AirTags on an Apple Watch charge puck to charge them, and when I set them up, they just show up like AirPods with the little pop-up, and I hit connect, and that's it. I don't have to download some other app. I don't have to go to settings and connect them and have to have another third-party email address and another password. I know they were mentioned in the support video. We're not denying that. We're just saying that AirTags were a placeholder name for future devices. AirTags was like the blanket statement name for geo-tracking devices that utilize the Find My network, and Apple was using the term AirTags as the code word, not an official word. Pablo donated 50 bits and said, do you think Apple will announce Apple Glass at WWDC? Thank you for the bits, but no. That's been speculated since, man, I remember thinking it was going to happen in September of 2019. Here we are in April of 2021. Still hasn't happened. I don't think the tech is ready yet, honestly. I genuinely think that Apple's not going to enter the augmented reality glasses game until other companies have probably been doing it for a little while. So you're going to see those weird Snapchat spectacles with augmented reality features, and Samsung's probably going to have some augmented reality glasses before Apple releases theirs. Apple's just not known for being really early in this type of development, and at least the market Apple would be serving, it doesn't even really have much presence right now. Augmented reality glasses are extremely niche in their current state and not doing anything near close to what Apple wants their glasses to do based on how they're developing ARKit with their iPads and LiDAR and iPhone. I'm guessing they want those ARKit experiences to be done on glasses with eye tracking and motion tracking, and there's not really AR glasses that are slim and compact. I don't think they're waiting for other companies to do AR glasses. They're waiting for the technology to be good. What you're imagining AR glasses being is something that's somewhat thin and light and doesn't look too bulky, that you can just drop on your, kind of like, what's his name? Tom Holland, Spider-Man, Far From Home. Remember was it Eve? Is that what it was? The glasses that Tony Stark gave Peter Parker, where you'd just be able to put on a normal looking pair of glasses and suddenly you have motion tracking and 3D holograms all around you and a somewhat decent battery life. That type of technology is many years away, and I'm not saying that Apple is waiting for everybody else to do it first. They're waiting for Edith. That's what it was. Thank you. They're waiting for the tech to get good, and my point about other companies doing it first is that before it actually gets good and usable, companies like Samsung, Google, or Microsoft are going to be doing it long before it's actually good. So Samsung, time and time again, is knowing for jumping on design trends or jumping on things before they're ready, and oftentimes releasing things prematurely. And I think we're going to see a lot of Apple competitors to Apple Glass come out with things that aren't ready yet, where we're going to play around with it and say, the tech is a little too early, or it's not ready for mainstream yet. And Apple's the type of company to wait until the technology is ready and they can do something that actually is usable and mainstream. I don't think it'll be $500 for the record. I still expect it to be north of $1,000 just because of how unique and rare it is. But no, I don't think it's ready yet at all. I'd love to be wrong, though. If it is ready and they're prepared to launch something this summer, oh man, I cannot wait to try it out myself. I really think Apple's in desperate need of some type of new innovation-looking products or some type of hardware that can kind of get people excited again. And Apple Silicon is somewhat exciting, but it's more of a tech specky thing. It's more of like, oh yeah, it's fast, it's good, but it's not something I think that average people get excited about, unless you're just a diehard Mac fan and you use desktops and laptops all the time and you need high intensive video editing performance and graphics performance and that kind of. For that demographic, it's kind of interesting, but to the everyday person, they're like, oh, so they're not using Intel? I didn't know they were using Intel. That's basically how it is now. Let's see. I guess everybody started a Lightning versus USB-C argument in the chat. Since when did this happen? I must have missed something, but screw Lightning. I don't care what you have to say. You're wrong. Kiopsis donated 25 bits. He says, are you saying I'll soon be able to tag the air? Dude, you can tag the air right now if you want. Go for it. Edith. Even death. Oh, yeah, I'm trying to remember that acronym. It was Edith. Wasn't it for even dead, I'm the hero? That's what it is. That's it. Iron Man is still the hero, even in dead. Spoiler alert. Whoa. Promoting a bike with a built-in tracker, the ultimate level of integration, can coexist with selling a fob that you can attach to your car keys or any other items you already have. I agree they can coexist, but Apple has already started promoting the fob. That fob you're describing is already getting Apple's attention on the website right now. They're promoting. If it's true, if you guys think it's correct that AirTags are real and they're coming out either next week or they're coming out this June, I'm not saying that's impossible. I'm simply saying it's very, very weird that Apple would directly promote AirTag competition right before they launch AirTags. Like, what's the angle here? Why not wait to announce these third-party incorporations until after you confirm AirTags are real and you're going to start selling them and here are the pricing? Like, what's the advantage to Apple starting off with the third parties? I don't understand. I don't understand the approach. Let's see. Will the third parties work with U1 features? Yes, that was directly mentioned on the newsroom page. If you go to this is not an exclusive thing. It's not like I have information that you guys don't. If you go to apple.com/newsroom, this is the latest, 2 days ago. This was the latest post, the Find My Network accessory program. So the Find My Network accessory program is designed for any accessory developer to connect an existing or new product to the Find My network. And then at the bottom here, it says, with this, today, Apple is also announcing a draft specification for chipset manufacturers that will be released later this spring. So that's probably going to get announced later this spring. Yeah, that's pre-summer. So in the next few weeks, basically. With this, third-party device makers will be able to take advantage of ultra-wideband technology in U1-equipped Apple devices, creating a more precise, directionally aware experience when nearby. So later this spring is not that far away. This is pre-quadruple UDC, and they're essentially saying that the U1 chip that have been in the iPhone 11s and 12s will be able to have spatial awareness connectivity to third-party applications, like the ones they showed. I like the name, the VanMoof S3. That's just a fun name in general. What kind of bike is that? Oh, it's a VanMoof. And then the Chipolo, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. The Chipolo One Sport Item Finder easily attaches to keys, luggage, backpacks, and more, directly promoting a key ring that you can attach to backpacks and such that's going to be directly incorporated into the Find My network. To me, this is direct AirTags competition that Apple's just like, hey, everybody, check it out. Everybody, you want to buy these new geo-tracking things, and then like a couple weeks later be like, oh, by the way, AirTags, though, are cool. They're probably going to be more expensive. And Apple will just be like, yeah, you should get the AirTags, though, even though we just promoted the Chipolio or whatever, the Chipotle item tracker. I don't know why I think Chipotle when I see it, but seems like the Chipolo is essentially identical to AirTags, possibly even without the Apple tags. Yeah, they don't seem too expensive from what I've seen. Yeah, but it doesn't have an Apple logo on it. Right. You guys are forgetting. Could just stick an Apple sticker on there, call it an AirTag. Kaboom. Let's see. As I said, I think the reason they started with third parties is because they originally planned to launch AirTags earlier, but they ended up delaying that, and the third parties were already ready to roll, and the code goes all the way back to iOS 14.3, so Apple just decided to pull the trigger. That could be it. I don't understand how Apple, of all companies, would run into delays with AirTags, but other companies wouldn't run into delays. I feel like if there's anybody who would be unfazed by chip shortages or launch delays, it would not be Apple. It would be everybody else. So Yeah, I don't know. Either this month or June. I don't think AirTags are coming out next year. I don't either. I feel like if AirTags don't come out this year, they're not coming out at all. It would just be a very, very interesting chapter in Apple's history if they never even launch in the first place. Wow, Keopsis said, I dedicate this anniversary message to Drew's fantastic beard. I don't appreciate that sarcasm, but thank you for the Twitch Prime. I appreciate that. It doesn't come in evenly. It's very distracting. I know. Doesn't that tracker says coming out June on the website? I don't know if it said that in the newsroom page. Let me see. They have links. Oh yeah, starts shipping in June. So yeah, I guess. Oh, that's funny. They have on their website. They have a picture of an iPhone with no notch. Confirmed. This just once again proves how little people care about notchless phones. Find your keys, backpack bag. I've never heard of this company, but Apple's giving them free publicity and directly advertising. Works with Apple Find My. So I don't know why you wouldn't want to announce this when they're ready. Why wouldn't you just announce this when AirTags come out if you are planning on launching AirTags? But I'm finding it more and more hilarious. It would be funny if after like 2 years of following AirTags leaks, they end up just not happening at all. that would be such an amazing troll, in my opinion. That would be hilarious. I don't think that Apple cares about promoting their product as well as someone else's. They're promoting those headphones, and yet they also sell AirPods. You could use the same argument. Why would Apple promote those headphones instead of just releasing AirPods with U1? That's a good point, but it goes both ways because Apple also started removing a bunch of different speaker accessories and over-ear headphones from the Apple website once AirPods Max were coming and the HomePod Mini was coming. There used to be direct competitors to those products they would sell, and then they started removing them and taking them off. So there are cases of them directly selling AirPods competitors, but there's also cases of them removing competitors from the website. The difference is AirPods have existed for a long time, and I would say AirPods are not in a threat of losing brand recognition because they're selling incredibly well, and AirPods are like one of the best-selling wearables of all time. So I don't think Apple's worrying about those Find My equipped headphones cannibalizing AirPods. However, AirTags haven't launched yet. AirTags don't have that brand reputation and brand recognition that AirPods do. And simply for the fact that tile trackers are not as universal or as versatile as wireless headphones are, I don't think that we should just instantly assume because Apple made AirTags, that means they'll instantly be as popular or as successful as AirPods. I genuinely have talked to many people in my life that have no interest at all in buying a geo-tracker of any kind. I mean, even in the tech community, I ran a Twitter poll on this just because I was curious. Keep in mind, I have a very tech-biased audience. I have a very Apple sheep-centered audience. And when we ran the Twitter poll, 2,200 people, 48% said they are not interested in AirTags. Just flat out not interested. Very simple question. Are you interested in AirTags? And it was neck and neck for quite a while. 48% people are just like, no, I don't care. I don't want to buy them. I don't care if they come out or not. I don't care if they're canceled. In fact, I saw a lot of people saying that, like, if AirTags don't come out, I'll be happy. I don't want to hear about AirTags anymore. It's boring, uninteresting. I don't think we'd get the same results if we were talking about AirPods. I feel like there's a lot more of a market towards wireless headphones versus geo trackers, which there is a market for. It's there. Tile has been out for a while, and Samsung is doing their Galaxy tag or whatever. But I do think the market overall is smaller. Apple would widen it for sure. Apple getting into the market would certainly bring a lot more eyes and attention to it, but I don't think that promoting its direct competition before it comes out makes a lot of sense. I've had Tile for just over a year, have 3 trackers, and 2 have run out of battery with very little usage. I've probably had to ring them around 5 times. Huh. Yeah, I would not want a Tile tracker. Someone gave me some Tile trackers once that you had to replace the battery, and you had to order a battery to replace it, which I hated. I was like, if you're curious how I voted no, because I've not run into a bunch of situations where I lost something and I need to track it down. Not regularly enough for me to want to spend money on tracking it down via the Find My network. I get that some people aren't like me, and some people probably go out and about and may lose their stuff a bit more often. So I acknowledge there is a market for geo trackers, but um, I'm not in it. I'm not part of that market, especially with how often I stay at home, not losing things. Uh, Snicked, I think, or Sniked says if AirTags is an actual product and gets scrapped in the end, it's still a better tech story than AirPower, which got announced on stage. That's true. Apple would much rather have a product get canceled internally and not announce it before it's ready. Um, of course, I said screw Lightning. USB-C all the way, man. I've got to be honest, the first time I saw AirPods, I thought they were very stupid, and then I ripped my regular Apple headphones cord on something, and that's when I realized the point of them. AirTags are the same way. I thought they were dumb until I actually lost my keys and wished I could find them. Also, as I said, I'm much more likely to hook a $39 tag onto my bike instead of buying another multi-$100 bike and find my built-in. I would disagree. They're not the same thing because AirPods did not have many other headphones like it. AirTags, I don't see how they're going to separate themselves from traditional, like the Chipolo tag. Also, AirTags are, I highly doubt, going to be $39. I expect them to be more expensive than you're willing to pay for them. Whatever you think is a reasonable price, times it by 150%. That's probably what Apple's going to end up. They're going to make, there are no way they're going to be price competitive with Chipolo. It's going to be all Apple-fied and streamlined, and they're going to say, oh no, this is way more expensive. Also, when AirPods came out, there were not many wireless headphones that didn't have a wire connecting the two. I know because I was very, very much into Bluetooth headphones at the time, and there were a handful maybe, but they were really bad at it. They were not good at having two separate devices connect to one iPhone, and they still, even wireless headphones had a cable connecting the two on the back, whereas AirPods kind of separated themselves in the same way. And AirTags haven't been unveiled, so we don't know how they separate themselves from the rest of the wireless industry. AirTags have magnets that makes them much easier to lose. It's much better. Maybe AirTags are on hold until Apple glasses are done. One can hope. Then they're going to be on hold for a long, long time. 25 bits. Do you ever miss the old dirty Apple Buds? The old dirty Apple Buds. I can make AirPods dirty. Just depends on how much earwax I got in me at the time. My AirPods Pro, after I wear them for, 2 hours mowing the lawn, ooh, they are very dirty. Unless you're talking about something other dirty buds. I don't know what you're talking about. But thank you for the quarter. 250 bits from Expos One. Thank you very much. He didn't say anything, but appreciate it. Let's see. AirPower is much more interesting than AirTag. No, AirPower is dumb now with MagSafe being a thing. Someone hasn't watched Dank Pods. What is that? A feature film, or is it a TV Plus original? Because you're correct. I have not seen Dank Pods. I've not watched it. AirPower makes no sense in the age of MagSafe. I don't see why. Also, people who are attached to AirPower are building it up in their mind as more reasonably priced than they imagine. MagSafe Duo is infinitely more simple than AirPower because you just have one MagSafe charge puck, and then you've got the Apple Watch charge puck, which is honestly better because it's adjustable, so it's more friendly to loop watch bands, whereas AirPower was not. And that is $130, and it doesn't come with a charge brick. Most of the people talking about how many coils they were going to have to stuff into AirPower to get it to work with Apple Watches or AirPods, most were saying to expect it to be north of $300. So even if they found a way to make AirPower work reliably and it worked safely and it didn't overheat and explode, which sounded like it was the problem, it still would have been a $300 charge mat. Charge mat, just to save a microscopic amount of time. And MagSafe is way better because you can use it you can charge your device as you're using it. AirPower doesn't do that. And MagSafe Duo allows you to flip the Apple Watch into nightstand mode instead of laying it flat, which is a lot harder to use on nightstands and stuff. So I don't understand. At first, AirPower sounded really interesting, but that was more under my assumption that it would be able to scale to larger senses, because I thought in the future we could get everything to be inductively charged, and you could eventually just have a huge desk that you could drop your iPad on and it starts charging, and you put your MacBook on it and it starts charging. But the more time went on, the more complicated I realized it was. And I was like, okay, the tech that I imagined it being is not that simple. Expos One, thank you for the 27 months of Twitch Prime. Wow. He says, what do you think about the Chipolo and Belkin buds with Apple? Oh, you should have caught the beginning of the stream. That was most of what we talk about. I think it's very interesting to see Apple directly promoting a lot of their competition, and Chipolo might be the AirTag we never realized was in development. AirTag might have been like a code name, like a cover-up name for future Find My devices. I don't know. We might never know, especially if Apple just never releases AirTags. That'll be very, very interesting, but it'll be funny to see how leakers will just keep saying, oh, it's been delayed again. No, it's coming next year. It's coming next year. It's coming next year. Kiopsis donated donated quarter again. Says Dank Pods is an Australian YouTuber who's a musician who's most famous for taking apart iPods to repair them, do crazy experiments with them, reviews crappy MP3 players, reviews and talks about high-end headphones. He's absolutely hilarious. Give him a look sometime. I don't watch tech videos in my spare time because I spend way too much of my life talking about tech. So kind of, when you make tech videos every day and you do tech live streams and you do tech podcasts, you kind of the last thing you want to do in your downtime is watch videos about tech, because that's your entire mindset. But I believe you. I believe he's funny and he's probably very talented and well deserving of a fan base. But no, that's in general why I haven't heard of many people in the tech community outside of probably the basics, MKBHD and Unbox Therapy, the big guys. What do you think of the new Google Watch? Which I'm guessing that's not OnePlus. I don't know. Was that from Front Page Tech? Hopefully that report ages better than the Pixel 5a one. Because it's like the Pixel 5a has been canceled 2 minutes later. Google comes forward with a statement saying Pixel 5a coming to the United States and Japan. I was like, okay, well that's different. I don't know. He's been saying that the Pixel would have a watch since 2019. I thought last time I was on the Recycle Bin podcast, he told me that Pixel would have a watch, and then it never happened. So I don't know. It could happen, but I don't know. There's been a lot of Pixel reports. There's been a lot of Pixel reports from FPT that haven't really turned into anything. So that's why, forgive me for being skeptical. It's just because of my memory. That's all. There's been a lot of times where he's like, no, this is going to happen, and then it doesn't. So we'll see, I guess. But I don't think a watch is where Google should spend much of their time. OnePlus Watch seems somewhat interesting, but the more I looked into basic things it was lacking, I was like, this is... Apple Watch is kind of impossible to beat, honestly. Like, it's really difficult to think of somehow a way another company could match it or beat it, and just the fact that it's round, I'm like, already not gonna happen. Excuse me. Already not doing well, because round screens aren't good for user interfaces. They're not good for third-party adoption, and if it's going to run Wear OS, it's already going to be significantly behind WatchOS. So finding out another company trying to do a smartwatch, it's like, isn't the main reason everybody loves Pixel the camera? So now you want us to get excited for a device they make without a camera? Like, no one talks about Pixel Buds anymore, do we? I'm sure they were fine. I never tried them. I think I remember watching Marquez's review, and they were like, yeah, it's pretty good. And then we never hear about them again. Everyone's like... So anyway, AirPods. Pixel Watch is like, wow, I'm really excited for another Google product that'll get discontinued in 3 years. Yeah, the OnePlus Watch has 2 weeks of battery life, but you can't do anything with it. It's got like a tiny amount of storage. It doesn't even have NFC, so you can't do mobile payments on it. Fairly limited health sensors. There's no always-on display. And they didn't want to talk about what kind of processor it has, which kind of concerns me. It makes me wonder how, like, a big complaint I hear about people who have an Apple Watch Series 3 or older is they're saying, like, it's downright near unusable because of how slow and laggy it gets. And watch CPUs don't sound like they'd be important, but when the software hangs and the software user interface starts getting laggy and unresponsive, people just don't want to use it anymore. They'll just give up on the watch entirely. So the fact that OnePlus did not want to boast about what kind of CPU it was rocking makes me think it's probably not very good, and it might not age very well with software updates. And there's lots of like really, really long battery life smartwatches, but they're missing very basic things. Some of them I don't even think have a haptic engine. Um, so it's difficult to recommend them. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's got a 2 week battery life, but most of what you'll use it for is the time. So at that point, it's less exciting. How can you forget the amazing Pixel Slate? Of course, the Pixel Slate. What was I thinking? Ways to beat Apple Watch, better battery. I still miss my Pebble because of battery. I don't think you beat it that way, though, because pretty much every Apple Watch competitor has a better battery life than the Apple Watch, and the sales of the Apple Watch have only gone up since it launched. Exponentially. It's growing faster and faster each year. We just did a video a couple of weeks back about the Apple Watch user base has surpassed 100 million units. Number one watch in the world, not just smartwatch, watch. And none of them have week-long batteries or 3-day long batteries for the most part. And all of their competitors, whether it's Galaxy Gear or a Fitbit or a Pebble, or whoever comes out against the Apple Watch says we have substantially better battery life, and no one cares. Doesn't seem to help the sales. So I would say you can be better than an Apple Watch in some way, but that's not going to help you beat the Apple Watch in market dominance and in sales. And Android, as a user base entirely, has proven to not like spending as much money on accessories or software. That's why the iOS App Store accounts for a significant amount of App Store revenue compared to the Play Store. People just don't spend as much money on the Play Store in general. And people don't spend as much money on accessories with their Android phones. It's just statistics. The Apple Watch is driving many iPhone sales. I don't know about that. It's kind of hard. It's kind of a difficult thing to prove necessarily. Be like, see, iPhone sales are up because people own Apple Watches. I don't know. Maybe. I doubt that's high on the list of reasons people bought the latest iPhone. I wanted it to go with my watch. Yeah, but small batteries get hit by degradation a lot sooner. So the older the Apple Watch, the worse the battery life gets, which is all products in general. But that was the Series 1. Yeah, battery life's gotten a bit better since then. But I was considering impulse buying an Android phone to see how Android has changed since 2013. But as soon as I realized I'd lose my Apple Watch, I threw the idea out the window. Yeah, it is a pretty good pivot point in the walled garden. Apple's able to pinpoint that exactly and say like, don't leave. You like your watch, right? It's like, yeah, I do. So it probably helps with keeping people in the ecosystem, but I don't see how that would directly drive new sales. There's not really a reason that you would buy an Apple Watch and then be like, oh shoot, I need to get a new iPhone. It's like, no, you just keep your current iPhone. If anything, I would say it helps convince people to not switch to Android, but buying new iPhones, I don't know. Let's see. When you look at all the technology and all the bezel-less attempts, you'll realize that the only true bezel-less display so far is the Apple Watch. Not bezel-less. I wouldn't go that far. I would just say somewhat thin bezels. Keopsis donated a quarter. He says, I'd like to get a new Android phone soon, but there isn't anything out that excites me at the moment. They're all very similar. That's why, in case people didn't realize, I've just taken a break from reviewing Android phones. I'll talk about them in Twitch streams or in YouTube videos. I'll be like, this Android phone was announced and it's kind of interesting. But in general, they've all become so similar now. It's so like you said, none of them are very exciting. It's all just like, where do you want your camera hole? And then you just roll some dice on the specs. This one has 120 hertz. Okay. This one has 4 cameras on the back, but 2 of them are useless. This one has 2 cameras on the back, and they're okay. They're pretty good. This one has some gimmicky pop-up camera. It's like they're all just very tiny incremental. They all kind of are blending together, though, in design. They're all starting to look the same. Functionally, there's not a huge amount of differences between them. And iPhones are guilty of this, too. I'm not trying to say it's just an Android problem. I've been on the record. In fact, a lot of Apple sheep in my videos have been complaining about how often I'm saying this year's iPhones are not going to be very exciting and they're not going to be that different from last year's. So I'm an Apple sheep, but I'm being fairly fair on the phones are peaking with innovation and they're not coming out with very many exciting new features thing. I'm complaining about that with iPhones. I'm complaining about that with Android. Rolls dice. This one snaps in half. Yeah. Why didn't iPhone have 120 hertz screens yet? Mainly because of supply chains. When you build something at the scale of iPhones, it requires a lot more tooling than building something at the scale of a Galaxy S series. You notice the top 10 best-selling phones in January were none of them were OnePlus, none of them were Galaxy S series. Doing something in single-digit millions is a bit easier to do something by the tens of millions. When Apple releases an iPhone, they have an insane amount of scale that most other Android phones don't have to worry about, so they can do a few things that are less complicated, or it's easier to do at a smaller scale. Apple has to talk to all these different supply chains to be like, how are we going to build 10 million of these things in a matter of months? Whereas, Samsung directly owns a lot of the supply chain, so they can do stuff more on the fly, and they can do stuff earlier or adopt it quicker because they are a lot more vertically integrated when it comes to mass production. Not going to happen. The Apple VR would likely compete more so with the Index. What if we combine a phone with a fruit roll-up? There you go. Just unroll the phone each time you use it, and then eat it when you're done. Sounds delicious. Will Teslas or iPhone get 120 hertz first? Most likely iPhone. It's probably just a few months away when you think about it. From what I've heard, iPhones are still on schedule to launch in September, and it's April. So 5 months? 5 months we'll probably be unboxing 120 hertz iPhones. Not that far away. Teslas have very little incentive to get 120 hertz. I guess that they're putting game console GPUs in them now, so that might be a decent reason to give them high refresh rate. Maybe they do have. Maybe the new Model S and X's have 120 hertz. They just didn't talk about it. I feel like they would have brought that up, but I wouldn't mind. I would love having 120 hertz on my car infotainment system. It probably wouldn't help very much, given most of the time you're just kind of glancing at that software. But Teslas are supposed to be, like good for gaming, good for media, good for all kinds of stuff, not just the car navigation system. So if they're trying to make Teslas more like computers on wheels, then yeah, come on, give it best specs in the world if you can. When are you going to unbox a Tesla? Mike, I unboxed one with you. You don't remember that? Come on. Press F in the chat for Mike's memory. Do you think the global chip shortage could push back the iPhones again this year? It's possible, but I think TSMC was saying they were still expecting iPhones to be in September this year. Geos Stream says 120 hertz is coming soon. They increased the frames in the iOS animations, especially in notifications and opening folders. Even in a 60 hertz screen, the animations on iOS 14 are way smoother than iOS 13. That sounds like placebo to me. You might have some evidence to support your thesis, but I did not notice that in the slightest. And I really love 120 hertz. I love it on my iPad Pro. And I hate that my iPhone is still 60, but I did not notice a difference at all between the animations in iOS 13 and 14. They're saying Facebook will make a watch. I hope Apple makes VR headsets, cheaper ones too, so they can compete with the Quest. Yeah, I still somewhat doubt it. I believe that Apple probably has VR headsets internally that they're using to test for Apple Glass, because they want to have the software built out and they want to have a really effective platform for, I believe the Bloomberg leak was called Reality OS, an operating system that just kind of adapts to your surroundings and goes on top of your vision. But the idea of them releasing a dedicated VR headset, Bloomberg has also reported on, and I don't know. It seems so not in Apple's interest. Apple has expressed so little interest in VR over the years. They tried to back in 2017. We're like, the Macs are doing this now, but then they lost it because they were like, no one's using VR on the Mac, so we're not going to support it anymore. And they have not really done much effort at bringing it back. There's not really much emphasis for VR-supported apps in the App Store. Google tried to do their whole Pixel VR thing with Google Daydream, and that didn't go anywhere, so they kind of gave up on it. The idea of Apple jumping in on that and coming at it with their own hardware, and based on the Bloomberg report saying that it would be very, very expensive, and they would be over $1,000 and be a very niche, like high-class item. Them buying companies means nothing. Apple buys all kinds of weird companies they never do anything with. Like, it doesn't, just because they bought VR companies, that doesn't guarantee they're releasing VR. They probably just want to take certain aspects of that company. I think they buy like 50 companies a year or something. If you go back and scroll through all the different brands they've bought, there's all kinds of different companies they never did anything with. So it's not a confirmation, in my opinion. To me, it sounds more like they have prototypes internally that they're using to test what kind of reality-based operating system they can develop, but I think it's basically just a prototype. It's not something they plan on selling. And Tim Cook was pretty vocal about that on one of his more recent podcasts. He was like, there's all kinds of stuff Apple makes that never sees the light of day. It happens all the time. All kinds of projects that they just develop internally to see if they can come up with something interesting. And if they can't come up with something compelling, they just won't release it. And it's the software that makes me most doubt that Apple would come out with their own VR headset, because they would have to basically launch a whole different platform of the App Store. And they would have to they would have to do so much to make it compelling, especially if it's expensive, which is what all the reports of a VR headset are saying. $1,000 headset that runs Apple Arcade titles or something, like very, very high. I don't know. It sounds like one of those crazy things. I'm sure I've ranted about this in the past, but to me, it always feels like leakers are making these wild, crazy claims about what Apple's going to do, and then what Apple actually does ends up being entirely different. Sorry, I'm activating Siri. I don't know how Digital Crown got pushed, but like, leakers are always like, oh yeah, Apple's working on their own game controller, and new Apple TV's coming soon, and they're going to develop their own glasses. They're coming next year, and they're going to have this, and they're going to do this, and the new watch is going to have that. And then when their stuff actually comes out, it's like, oh, that was all pointless. It's like, oh, we didn't know what we were thinking this whole time. Like, I don't get it. Makes no sense. It's going to be something a la HoloLens for developers and business. I agree that it's probably something somewhat like HoloLens. I just don't see them selling it. I don't see Apple making a piece of hardware that would just be for developers and businesses, not for everyday consumers. Because what are they developing? Is it just a roadmap of just like, in a few years we'll have Apple Glass, but we want you guys optimizing software for it now? I don't know. It doesn't seem like something Apple would do, in my opinion. Do you believe the macOS inspired Control Center in iOS 15? That's the thing. Doesn't macOS on the Mac Control Center look? I thought that was inspired from iPadOS. I don't get it. At least the Apple Car is real. Yeah. I mean, it's real fake. That's what it is. It's real unsure. Oh goodness. XUnite agrees with me. There are Lightning OTGs, USB to Lightning adapters. I don't like adapters. If Apple was pushing Lightning across all of their other products, I'd maybe be more inclined to go with Lightning. But the fact that they have USB-C on MacBooks, iMacs, iPads, Mac Pros, Mac Minis, if you're going to adopt one port for everything, USB-C is the way to go. If Apple had found some miraculous way of making Lightning a high data speed port that you could output high-resolution monitors to and transfer high amounts of data through, that'd be a different discussion. If they were adopting Lightning onto Macs and making that the one-shop standard for everything, then maybe I would be more okay with Lightning. But the fact that they've adopted and pushed USB-C so hard across their other categories, I'm for consistency. I'm for have the same port across everything, because I despised most of the Pixel challenge when I used the Pixel 3 for a whole month, but it was really, really nice being able to charge everything off of one charger. That was pretty sweet. And as long as Lightning is still being used on the iPhone, I have to carry around two chargers wherever I go, which is very annoying and, in my opinion, unnecessary. It's just Apple wanting to hold on to old standards, I guess. And trying to prevent the e-waste thing, but that's not going to help if they try to remove Lightning entirely anyway. AirTag rumors have been circulating for such a long time, it doesn't feel much different to AirPower at this point. Difference is Apple never formally announced AirTags. and AirPower didn't last this long. AirPower was not even leaked before it was unveiled, from what I remember. I use MagSafe for everything, but if you're going to have a port on the iPhone, it should be USB-C. I'd be fine with them removing Lightning in favor of just MagSafe, but that's just because MagSafe is convenient and you can do the wireless charge technology with an iPhone pretty comfortably. You can't really do it on an iPad or a MacBook very comfortably. So, but if you're going to keep a port on the iPhone, I would rather it be Type-C. AirPower was unveiled. I don't recall that many leakers and stuff talking about it before it was unveiled back in 2017. So it was kind of our first glance at an Apple wireless charger, and that was 2017. And then we were waiting for it in 2018. We thought at some point it's going to launch, and then there were a lot of rumors brewing about it all throughout 2018, and then early 2019 it still wasn't out. We saw some leaked images on Apple's website of a AirPower with a more up-to-date iPhone charging on it. We were like, oh, okay, is AirPower coming soon? And then Apple made a formal announcement. I believe it was March. Wasn't it March of 2019 that they announced AirPower is officially dead? Yeah, I think it was, because I remember making the merch for the RIP AirPower thing. Yeah, and that was when Nick and Randy were visiting is when I did that, and that was in March. So, yeah, it was March of 2019, which meant that AirPower... basically September to March, it's around 6 months, a year and a half from unveiling to cancellation. And I guess probably for a lot of you, it's felt like AirPower has been around longer because there were a lot of leakers that thought they were looking at AirPower prototypes and were convinced AirPower was coming back, and they were clearly wrong and didn't know what they were talking about. So you may have thought AirPower was alive for longer than it was, but from the Apple side of things, at least, it was a year and a half from when they unveiled it to when they announced it wouldn't happen and they weren't going to release it. AirTags were never formally announced by Apple, but the first leak of it being a thing is almost 2 years ago now. So everyone's just pretty much frustrated with its existence. Chargers and MagSafe branding is different. It's a very different type of port between the MacBooks and the iPhones. 20 Vu says, I want AirTags to come out as soon as possible so we don't go down the same road as AirPower with this, that AirPower that. Oh, look, over there isn't the non-existing AirPower that obviously died in 2018. Oh, I know. Let's just pretend it's still happening because why not? Yeah, pretty much. That's what it turns into. It just becomes this like boogeyman. Becomes like the Bigfoot of the Apple tech community of like, oh, is this when we're getting AirPower come back? Is this happening? Ooh. My assumption was correct. Elon Musk is tweeting about FSD beta. He said, step change improvement is massive, especially for weird corner cases and bad weather. Pure vision, no radar. Version 9 of full self-driving beta does not use radar. And when someone asked, does this mean you can remove the radar from production or will it still be included as a backup? And he said remove, which is exactly what I thought was going to happen. And everyone said I was crazy. I got all these comments, people saying, Drew, they're not going to remove radar. They need a backup. They need a fail-safe. And I was like, this is Tesla we're talking about here. They're talking about vision is so good, we don't need radar anymore. We're just going to pull it out of the production lines. So it sounds like that's what Elon wants. Might end up happening. Anyway, you want to hear something scary? There was a time where Siri would constantly activate on my phone for no reason, which made me feel that Siri's always listening to me. Oh, she is. Don't worry. She hears everything. When asked about Apple Car, Tim said we love to integrate hardware and software. That's true. I don't... I know exactly what podcast you're referring to. Tim Cook was not confirming or canceling anything on that podcast. He did not at any point say, yes, we're definitely making a car, or no, we're definitely not making a car. He stayed as vague as he's always been. He says they love to integrate hardware and software, which is true. That's what they do on all of their devices. He gave the same vague answer he always gives. In fact, Tim Cook on that same podcast was very, very open about how Tesla is the leader in the EV space and has remained the leader for an extended period of time. Probably not a good thing to say if you plan on launching your own car in the next year. So, I don't know. I think about intentions and motivations when it comes to how Tim Cook responds to those Apple Car questions. Truth is, it's if they were serious about it, They'd be building their own factories. They'd be building their own batteries right now as we speak. The fact that they aren't, when he says integrate hardware and software, he could be referring to just building Apple silicon chips that power different CarPlay features. This just making some enhanced version of, like, Apple designs the interior, but another company designs the exterior. Building EVs is not as profitable as building smartphones and that kind of thing. So I'm still very, very skeptical just because of how long the Apple Car rumors have been around. They go back before iPhone. There was literally talks of Apple working on a car before the iPhone came out. And here we are over a decade later, and people are like, might happen. Just like, are we still going to be having this debate 10 years from now? Is it going to be 2031 and everybody's going to be saying, see, I think Apple's working on a car. They're hiring from former Tesla employees. It's like, Apple's never going to come forward and specifically state, no, we're not making something. They never do that. They've never been like, we refuse to make a car. That would not make a newsroom post. So how long does it have to go without them releasing a car before we just admit, okay, they're probably not going to make one? If Apple starts making Apple cars, do you think they'll beat Tesla, and by how much? No. How much? Negative. Oh, no. Let Starlink come back. He's looking for a satellite. Come on, you can do it. Apple Car will not charge with Lightning or USB-C because it doesn't exist. I don't recall them saying they'd never make an iPad mini. I just remember Steve Jobs being very vocal about why he likes the 9.7-inch screen size. But Apple Car charges with Lightning. It would be the worst EV in the world if that's what it was. It would not beat Tesla. It would not. Simply for the current dominant lead Tesla has in the EV space currently, just with how many batteries they're building and how profitable their vehicles are and how much full self-driving software they can collect in real-world data and use to make their software-based artificial intelligence better. It's the reason Siri can't keep up with the Google Assistant. Is the same reason full self-driving will always have a lead over whoever else is trying to develop their own self-driving system. And on top of that, Apple does not like to vertically integrate in manufacturing, which they can get away with iPhones because smartphones are pretty profitable to make. You can get in touch with the right supply chains and get with the right contracts, and when you have the right amount of scale, Apple can build most of their iPhones for under $400 and charge $1,000 for each of them. There's obviously a lot more money that goes into R&D and stuff, but even on the manufacturing level of EVs, it's not that simple. The profit margins on electric vehicles are very thin. In fact, a lot of legacy automakers are losing money on electric vehicles they make because they haven't quite found a way to make them profitable yet, and that's why they do limited releases. They don't take as many orders as they can because they can't afford to build out an insane amount of EVs because they would start losing too much money on them. And Tesla is one of the few companies that has found a way to retain profitability with electric vehicles and vertically integrate, as in Apple doesn't own their own factories. Foxconn builds the iPhone and TSMC builds the Apple silicon chip. It's not the same thing with Teslas. Tesla buys the land that their vehicles are built on. They build the factory themselves. They employ the workers. They order all of the parts that go into their vehicles themselves. They manufacture them themselves. Apple outsources all that. They push it off onto other companies, and other brands make all of their stuff. And every time you have that third-party manufacturing and you push that out to other people, they take a piece of the profits. They are going to be contracted out. And because EVs are so difficult to do profitably, Apple, if they wanted to make something price competitive with Tesla, they would have to have profit margins similar. In other words, if Apple did get into the EV space, electric vehicle space, they would have to, they would probably just be doing like Lucid Air vehicles, like six-figure cars that are extremely premium and luxury and have great range and great materials, but they don't make a big difference to the EV space. It's just like flexing. How expensive can we make a car? That's that would be Apple's question. It'd just be like, how overkill can we make an electric vehicle? Whereas Tesla's goal, their mission statement is to accelerate sustainable energy. So their goal is to make EVs as cheaper as possible and make them more autonomous. And robo taxis hail people everywhere, and people don't even need to own cars in the future. Which I don't necessarily believe in, but I believe what Tesla develops is still really amazing. But Apple, for the simple fact they haven't announced a car, is severely behind Tesla, just for the fact that they haven't even announced one. I don't think they'd be the BlackBerry of EVs. Tesla is very much the Apple of EVs in many ways. In a lot of different ways, I could say that Tesla has kind of stolen that iPhone moment that Apple would typically have with a product category. They came forward and said, here's this big screen that's multi-touch, and we're going to do everything on the screen now. And everybody else in the smartphone industry was all in on buttons and physical keyboards. And there were a lot of people complaining about the original iPhone for not having a physical keyboard and not having more buttons, but Apple was all in on that. Like, you don't need buttons. You can do everything on the multi-touch display. That's the future. Tesla's kind of already taken that moment of like, you don't need that many buttons. You don't need that many switches. We're going to go all in on the screen. We're going to be all about software. We're going to make our cars more of an experience, and we're going to put a lot of energy into making sure our cars can play games and have security functions like Sentry mode, and our cars are going to be autonomous and drive themselves, and we're going to start removing gear stocks and start removing more buttons and things. They're very much like Apple in that regard, to the point that if Apple wanted to enter the EV space, they would be more of a follower than anything. They wouldn't be much of a leader. They wouldn't be pioneering that many interesting things. They would basically just be, how do we copy Tesla and then make it more expensive to justify the cost. They don't barely break even. They don't barely break even. That's not true. I mean, if you want to talk about profitability in the automotive space, look at how much money all the other automotive brands lost compared to Tesla consistently turning a profit in each of their quarters for a year and a half now. Has it been over a year and a half, I think? I don't think they don't make all their money from stock speculation. That sounds like someone who doesn't understand the company as a whole. Snicked says, why can't car manufacturers agree on one universal fast charging specification and plug design, especially as we are in the early stages before EVs become too popular, to sort this out so that you only need to search maps for EV charging station without narrowing down your search to only show Tesla superchargers? They tried. Tesla was really, really trying back when they first developed the Model S in 2011 and launched it in 2012. They wanted the government to all agree on a charging standard, and the government didn't. They weren't really seeing it as a big selling point or as a big crucial thing they needed to focus on. And Europe did, thankfully. So if you're talking about having one charge connector for everything, that's what Europe did. And Teslas are in Europe, and they all have the same standard, although they still have exclusive charging stations. But yeah, the U.S. government did not enact a charging standard quick enough, basically. So it's almost the exact same Lightning to USB-C debate. There wasn't a universal standard agreed upon in the smartphone space that was reversible and simple. So Apple was like, okay, if no one's going to have one, then we're just going to adopt Lightning, because we don't want to adopt micro USB, and we're kind of done with 30-pin. We don't want to keep using 30-pin. So Apple developed Lightning. And at the time, it was really cool because it charged fast and you could do a reversible, and it was very small and portable. And that's what they went with. And then a few years later, everybody started agreeing on USB-C once that became available and open. And the rest of the industry was like, okay, USB-C is the way to go. But Apple had already developed this huge user base of Lightning. So they didn't want to just abandon it, despite Lightning being worse than USB-C. And now they have a huge e-waste problem, and they have a lot of people who are going to be mad if they do decide to switch away from Lightning, which they eventually probably will. But there's no good way to do it. There's no option I've seen that results in everybody being happy and there being no e-waste problems. So yeah, it's the same thing with Tesla, except the difference is Tesla superchargers vastly outnumber all the other chargers. So there's actually Tesla connectors are the most common, simply because Tesla has spent the most money and time building out their charger network compared to other charger networks which don't have as many stalls and the connectors aren't as plentiful. So that's why. I don't think iPhone should keep Lightning. You can think your wrong opinion, but you're not going to convince me otherwise. Let's see. Do you think Sam's Sentry Mode is best? Legacy autos need to copy that feature. I agree. I'm amazed that no other company has thought of Sentry Mode. That's incredible. Do I think Samsung would ever join the EV space? Yeah, I could see them doing it. I know Xiaomi has expressed interest in doing it, but I think a lot of people seem to assume that developing smartphones and computers is very similar to developing EVs. It's really not. There's so many different realms of challenges, and the auto market is very, very different from the smartphone market. It's a lot of people seem to think that because there are batteries and screens, that means they overlap and they can be designed. I don't think that anybody who's making smartphones can just instantly start converting over to making successful EVs. It's not as simple as they think. And the people who have been making the most EVs for the longest are going to be much better than those who haven't been doing it, because they don't know what challenges and issues there are with the supply chains and how complicated it is. I don't want to lend my charger to charge an Android. You don't have to. No one says if you have USB-C, you have to lend your... Do you think just because I have an iPad Pro, I have to lend a charger to an Android person? You can just say no. My goodness. Don't be so closed-minded. It's ridiculous. And the EU regulation means all chargers are standardized, but only Teslas can use superchargers. That is true. So the connector is the same, but in the future, if Tesla wanted to open up superchargers to third parties, they could. They wouldn't have to provide adapters or anything. They would just have to update the Tesla app, and you would just get billed and do the charging through that, instead of like how you can do it on a Tesla, where you just plug in and it starts charging, which is probably the better way to do it. Let's see. Maybe supply parts and tech and batteries. Yeah, so that's the thing. I know that smartphones and EVs both have batteries, but they are very, very, very different kinds of batteries from a fundamental level. There's almost no carryover between developing a battery from a smartphone to developing a battery for a car. Smartphone's going to be in someone's pocket inside a lot. EV's going to be almost exclusively outside, dealing with harsh weather, going to be pulling extreme amounts of power for long periods of time, where a smartphone is more about low power consumption when doing basic things and occasional high power usage when you're doing a live stream or recording a high resolution video. It's just they're so different from each other. The iPad has abandoned Lightning. Have you not heard of this 3-year-old iPad? You know what that port is? It's not Lightning. Do you know what the iPad Air charges with? It's not Lightning. We have 3 iPads in the lineup that don't charge via Lightning. So, yeah. I live in Europe, and Tesla just arrived at my country, and they opened the first supercharger, Greece, but right now only like 50 people have Teslas. Well, that's fine. You want the chargers to come first. Much better than the charger to come first and the cars come second than the car come first and the chargers come second, because you're not going to want to sell a bunch of cars in a country where they can't charge them. I'd swallow the pill of using adapters / having to buy new accessories when iPhone switched to USB-C, because it would finally give an end to the issue of all your colleagues having the wrong charger, or the opposite. Almost always someone has a charger, but the chance of it being Lightning is less than half, not USA. So you can't rely on other people to save you. I just feel like you shouldn't do that in general, especially with the pandemic. If you're going to need to charge something, you should have the charger. Don't assume there will be someone around you that can charge your phone for you. That's just bad planning in general. But most of the time, the cable you need to charge your phone is included with the phone, so it's not that hard. Why did MacBook and iPad Pro switch to USB-C, but iPhone is still Lightning? I'm asking that same question. Just add, looks at napkin calculation, 1,500 Galaxy S8 batteries to the EV chassis, and we good for a few miles. I'm glad Mike did the math. Hopefully they're not Galaxy Note 8 batteries, because that could end horribly, but I'm looking to buy an iPhone 12 or 12 mini. Can't seem to decide. I would say save yourself some money. Try a 12 mini, and if you hate it, then return it and get a 12. There's not really You can get a full refund within the first 2 weeks, but if you can get by with the 12 mini, it's an awesome phone. I love it. Apple gets barely any money for made for iPhone on Lightning, but I'm saying whatever argument there was for removing Lightning on the iPad and switching to USB-C, apply that argument to the iPhone. It's honestly not a huge number of people paying for the made for iPhone Lightning connector. It's a rounding error. In their earnings reports, like when Apple talks about what their biggest sources of revenue are, the Lightning thing is so tiny. It's such a small portion of their revenue. They would probably lose like a couple $1 million if the iPhone didn't have Lightning anymore. I doubt it's a huge chunk of money because there's certain gas stations that make Lightning chargers and people pay for Apple for those Lightning connectors. I don't believe it's a huge chunk of their income. I don't think that's a good reason to keep it. And I don't think they would lose that much money to ditch it. Especially considering, Apple probably wants to ditch Lightning eventually and go all in on Qi charging, and you can get third-party Qi chargers that Apple doesn't rely on. So I don't know. It's not a good reason in my opinion. I think Apple switching to MagSafe only in the next few years is why Apple isn't switching iPhones to USB-C. I believe that's it too. They probably just want to go all in on portless, and that's fine because there are third-party MagSafe options that don't have to pay for Apple. The MagSafe thing is honestly really hard to cheat. You can make a MagSafe charge connector that's not from Apple. It's not made for iPhone MagSafe, but they just put a ring of magnets in there and then put a Qi coil. Apple doesn't have a patent on that. You can build magnets into chargers if you want. There are several not official MagSafe charge connectors. They don't have the little NFC chip built in so that it gives you that cool little animation, but it does still magnetically attach and it will still charge your iPhone. So there are lots and lots of third-party. They have made MagSafe certification, but not everyone has to use it. Where it was a lot harder to make Lightning that wasn't made for iPhone. You had to buy those ports pretty much directly from Apple. I disagree. I've had tons of Lightning ports damaged, and I've never once had a USB-C port get damaged and stop using. But I know tons of Lightning ports. I know tons of Lightning cables in my life that don't work anymore, or I have family members that Lightning cables don't work for them anymore. Not just the cable itself, but the pins got rubbed off, whereas I haven't had that issue with Type-C. You can have durability problems on USB-C and Lightning. It's not one is substantially worse than the other. I don't know why they put Lightning on Magic Keyboards and AirPods. I think it's ridiculous. They're just going to... the argument has escalated to big brain levels when the argument is yes, no, yes, no. It's like playing Pong. It's like that Neuralink monkey playing Pong in its mind. Just like, yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. I'm just saying, I know it's anecdotal evidence, but I know a ton of people where Lightning cables have aged out on them. And USB-C has not, for all my people I know that use USB-C chargers. Apple cables are bad, but the Amazon Basics cables are really good. I've never had issues with my Apple cables, to be honest. The electric shield is the important part of the MagSafe right now. That is important, but there are lots of third-party ways to charge your iPhone. In fact, Apple's been endorsing them for a while, the different Mophie charge stations and that kind of thing. iPhone and AirPods can charge with the same charger. They already did. Just wireless charge case, just Qi. By your logic, Sky Driver, we should have never ditched 30-pin because the iPad used 30-pin and iPods used 30-pin, and people don't want to have to switch to a different standard. So let's never change standards again. Meanwhile, Monkey wins with getting banana smoothie. Oh, well, you can defend Lightning all you want. I still think it sucks, but I've got some more videos to make. We could do the Lightning to USB-C argument forever, but I appreciate the Twitch Primes and I appreciate the bits. And I hope you have an excellent rest of your Friday. Take care, all. Bye-bye.